What's the most chilling thing you've said with a smile? In high school, I was the kid most people barely noticed. Not unpopular, not particularly cool, just the quiet one who did well in class, kept to themselves, and smiled a lot because it was easier than showing when something bothered me. Teachers liked me because I was polite, classmates didn't pay me much attention, and that was how I preferred it. Staying invisible felt safe. But there was one person who decided that my quietness made me an easy target. Let's call him Mark. Mark wasn't a stereotypical bully. He didn't shove people into lockers or get into fights. His weapon was words. He was the kind of guy who always had to be the loudest in the room, and he thrived on making people laugh, usually at someone else's expense. Unfortunately for me, I became his favorite target. It wasn't anything huge at first, just little comments when I walked by, mimicking my voice, asking why I always sat alone at lunch. Harmless on the surface, but constant enough to chip away at me. I tolerated it, smiled through it, and never gave him the satisfaction of reacting. That probably encouraged him because he started pushing harder. One day in the cafeteria, I sat at a corner table with my notebook open, sketching. Mark strolled over with his group of friends, saw what I was drawing, and said loudly, "Man, are you writing love letters to yourself? No wonder you don't have a girlfriend." His friends laughed, and I just closed my notebook and smiled like it didn't matter. But inside, it burned. The thing about being quiet is that people assume you don't notice things, but I noticed everything. Who laughed at his jokes out of fear, who laughed because they thought it was genuinely funny, and who looked uncomfortable but stayed silent. I noticed the teachers who glanced over but chose not to intervene. I remembered every smirk, every word. I filed it all away. It all came to a head in chemistry class a few weeks later. We got assigned a group project, and of course, I ended up in Mark's group. From the moment we sat down, he started. At first it was small, mocking the way I pronounced molarity, rolling his eyes whenever I suggested an idea. Then he escalated. He knocked my notebook off the desk, and when I bent down to pick it up, he accidentally spilled water across my notes. His friends chuckled, and even the people not in our group laughed under their breath. I remember sitting there, blotting my notes with a paper towel, feeling something inside me shift. I wasn't angry in the way people expect, not red-faced, not shaking, not ready to throw a punch. It was a colder, quieter kind of clarity. I realized I had nothing to lose by finally saying something. I looked up at him, smiled, my usual polite, calm smile, and said in the most pleasant voice I could manage, "You know what's funny, Mark? I already know exactly how your life is going to turn out. You're going to peak in high school, brag about football at every reunion, and then spend the rest of your life wondering why no one takes you seriously. And the worst part, you'll deserve it." The room went silent, completely silent. Mark's grin evaporated instantly. He just stared at me like I'd slapped him, except I hadn't raised my voice or changed my expression at all. I just kept smiling, like I'd made a casual comment about the weather. One of his friends let out a low, "Damn," but no one else laughed. The teacher, who hadn't noticed a thing up until then, finally looked over and asked if everything was okay. I said, still smiling, "Yes, everything's fine." Mark didn't say another word for the rest of class. In fact, after that day, he never bothered me again. He didn't tease me, didn't make comments, didn't even look in my direction. If anything, he avoided me. Word must have spread because other people started treating me differently too. They didn't suddenly become best friends with me, but they looked at me with a new kind of respect, or maybe wariness. It was like they realized that behind the quiet smile, there was a line you didn't want to cross. Looking back, that moment taught me something important. Anger is expected. People know how to handle yelling or even fighting. It's loud, it's messy, and it usually burns out quickly. But when someone stays calm, keeps smiling, and delivers words that cut deeper than any insult, that lingers. That unsettles people in a way they can't shake off. Years later, I sometimes think about Mark and wonder if he remembers that moment. Maybe he laughs it off, maybe he tells himself it didn't matter, or maybe, just maybe, it still echoes in his head every time life doesn't go the way he thought it would. Because for me, that was the day I realized the power of a smile paired with the truth. And honestly, it was chilling even to me.